This is part one of a two-part series on supervised late-stage ACL rehab. Today we will discuss the importance of late-stage rehab, some of the research including a sample protocol, and some advanced treatment ideas. If you find this helpful, please visit our website at nextwavept.com for other content. As many of us know, ACL tears are one of the most common traumatic injuries in sports, with over 200,000 acute tears happening each year. 70 to 80% of those tears are due to non-contact injuries such as pivoting, cutting, and landing from a jump, which is why sports such as soccer, basketball, and football display the highest rates of injuries. While 80 to 90% of athletes return to activity, it has been found that approximately 65% do not return to their pre-injury level for various physical, psychological, and social reasons. An ACL tear can be debilitating, leading to decreased function, decreased skill level, and fear of re-injury. Typical ACL rehab has 4 phases: to regain range of motion, strength, dynamic strength, and balance, or basically follows the PNF fundamentals: mobility, stability, mobility on stability, and function. The first 3 phases have relatively stringent protocols with clear goals and progressions. However, the final phase has more general goals, global classifications, and vague progressions of exercises. Average return to sport is around 3 to 6 months, where the athlete is allowed to slowly reacclimate into their sport, and it is assumed that the rest of their rehabilitation will occur independently and unsupervised through sport practice. This strategy, however, has been found to result in very poor outcomes, with re-tear rates up to 25% in the same leg and 25% in the contralateral leg. Or looking at it a different way, the risk of a second ACL tear is over 7 times the risk of a first ACL injury. Numerous research have found that athletes continue to have decreased strength, proprioception, stability, and neuromuscular control 6 months to 2 years after reconstruction. So athletes may be returning to sport when functional deficits are still present. Dr. Mark Paterno and colleagues have identified the 4 major predictors of a second ACL tear. First, hip internal rotation during landing, bilateral differences in the sagittal plane between knees, valgus knee motion, and postural instability, all of which stem from altered neuromuscular control of the hip and knee. So the new, or relatively new, idea is late-stage supervised rehab. Researchers are working to develop concrete protocols for this late-stage rehab to establish objective, standardized criteria, progressions, and return to sport. What everyone does agree on at this point is the importance of achieving symmetrical quad strength bilaterally. Many have found that the quad to hamstring ratio should be 85% in order to reintegrate into cutting, pivoting, and jumping. Additionally, coactivation of the hamstring and quad is vital for reducing ligament strain and normal loading mechanics. Deficits can manifest as excessive landing contact noise during double leg and single limb landing tasks. Finally, and most importantly, bipedal or modified double limb exercises can mask unilateral deficits. The athlete needs to be able to generate and maintain isolated single leg power and attenuate and regenerate force on single leg. There are a number of different approaches of valid and reliable late-stage exercises and protocols. I won't go into detail about all of them here, but they are included at the bottom of the page if you are interested in reading about them more. The one that we will look at briefly is the proposed protocol and criteria for progression and return to sport by Dr. Meyer and Dr. Harrington. They have 6 stages of this protocol. I'm going to focus on mostly stages 4 and 5, as those are the stages that the old rehab used to rely on reintegration into sport instead of developing rehab programs and goals. I have also included a handout highlighting stage 4 and 5 if you want to print it to reference it in the clinic. For a lot of the progression criteria, they use this scoring form for qualitative analysis of single leg loading to objectify the results, focusing on quality of movement and neuromuscular control rather than quantify with time or distance. They have dichotomous scoring, 0 being appropriate or proper movement, and 1 being inappropriate or incorrect movement pattern. The goal is to get 0 out of 10. I won't go through all this in detail, as you can read it on the handout I provided, but an interesting bit of information to consider. Dr. Meyer was one of the first to establish a protocol at this end-stage rehab. In his article in 2006, the maximal difference between legs during exercises was 15%. If the athlete had less than or equal to 15% difference between legs, they could progress on to the next stage. This 15% is consistent with a number of other research articles and sample programs that have been established since. However, in 2013, Harrington and Meyer collaborated to make this current protocol, where they said the side-to-side difference should be no more than 5% between legs. You can make your own judgment on which number you want to abide by, but I have included the more stringent protocol of 5% difference in this presentation and the handouts. There are 2 different tuck jump examinations. One is from Meyer's 2006 article that has repetitive tuck jumps for 10 seconds. This information is included in the second handout at the bottom of the page, but I think it's important to look at as it incorporates the vital component of fatigue during exercise. The second tuck jump exam is a single tuck jump as shown here. This was included in the most recent protocol for qualitative analysis, with the goal to minimize frontal plane motion of the trunk and lower extremity while achieving thigh position that is parallel to the floor at a height of the jump. I personally think it would be important to combine goals of this technique in the repetitive tuck jump test, as biomechanics often will change when an athlete undergoes repetitive exercise and becomes fatigued. There are quite a few more things to examine in that stage, but we'll move on to more sport-specific task training exercises now. You can read about the specifics of this stage in the handout, but the goals of this stage are to equalize ground reaction force, power endurance, biomechanics, and confidence using single-leg sport-specific tasks. Again, the rest of the protocols, goals, and exercises are included in the handout. Now we will look at a few sample exercises for late-stage rehab before return to sport. Single-leg hopping for distance is great to look at both distance and for biomechanics. Single-leg hopping onto a BOSU to further incorporate balance and stabilization training with lateral dynamic movements. Here is a picture from the article by Bazzini about drills for professional European soccer players, combining running drills with cutting, pivoting, and turning, in addition to agility ladders, hurdle drills, and sport-specific soccer drills, such as volleying, heading, passing, and shooting, to name a few. Bazzini also included more sport-specific drills, such as blocking and tackling drills, kicking drill while on an uneven surface, and in-air body contact drills. I would argue that these improve the athlete's confidence and psyche in returning to sport as much as it helps with their dynamic drills for the rehab purposes. So, to wrap it all up, always be sure to watch for asymmetries in knee flexor and hip rotational deficits, excessive frontal plane knee mechanics, and postural control deficits. Also, you must do single-leg hopping tests before you can clear an athlete to return to sport. A recent JOSPT article by Dr. Meyer found that the first 3 tests that are pictured here, single-leg hop for distance, crossover hop for distance, and triple hop for distance, have been shown to be able to pick up deficits and asymmetry between limbs. Finally, while we are focused on the physical rehab of our athletes, we cannot overlook the vital importance of the psychological component. If an athlete has no limb asymmetries and perfect form, but is tentative to get back into the game, all of your work will be for naught. So whether you have the means of working with a sports psychologist or simply incorporating exercises and sport-specific drills, you must address the psychological component as well as the physical rehab. Listed here are the references I used. Please comment below with any questions or comments you may have. I'd love to get a discussion going about drills, protocols, timelines for reintegrating athletes into sport, etc. Thanks for watching. Check out nextwavept.com for more videos, blogs, and articles.